So about 8 months ago, I outlined the process by which people of low intelligence were gathered into one political party and became such a powerful bloc within it that they actually were able to take the place over. And the implications for that in politics have become all too clear for all of us. It's even gotten to the point that they are running a candidate who has told these people that refugees are eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio, and they have believed it. And of course, this has been horrifying to so many of us. And it's been easy for us to understand the implications for our elections, and easy for us to be afraid, realizing that they could end up serving on a jury, sitting in judgment of us. And so many other terrible consequences flow from having a large block of people who are both poorly informed and extremely confident, extremely active, extremely boisterous, and influential in the system. But another way in which they are affecting us right now is in the area of economics. And I want to give credit to Hawk for inspiring me to talk about this today, because he describes a scenario from the other night when the Fed introduced its 0.5% interest rate cut, and Republicans that were gathered to hear Trump, or one of those guys, maybe Vance, booed. And the incredible stupidity of this crowd that seemed to be upset with the cut in the interest rate. There could be some among them, of course, who are libertarian types who recognize the potential inflationary implications of an interest rate cut. But it is more likely than not that they were just angry that the men in the sunglasses seem to be going against Trump again, and that there would be beneficial economic news that would probably help future President Harris. But I would submit that there is even further danger to the widespread ignorance of this particular bloc. And that is the fact that they don't actually understand, by and large, what inflation is. Economics has been called the dismal science, but I think most of us realize it's a social science. It's a little bit squishy, and part of the reason is that economic models, even the useful ones, tend to be based on rational players in the marketplace, and ideally with perfect information on both sides in an arm's length transaction. The problem is that increasingly in the real world, we don't have any of those things, and when we have a large block of people who are not merely not rational, but are actively irrational, the implications for our economy are negative, and this is part of why we are not pulling out of inflation as quickly as we should. We have a large group of people that believe inflation will only be over when prices go back down to what they were before. In other words, they anticipate, expect, and desire deflation, which of course nobody in charge of anything is going to willingly allow to have happen. Deflation was what caused the Great Depression. You might say, Steve, what would be wrong with having the prices go back to the way they were before the Biden administration, back during the slump of COVID? Well, a lot of things. For one thing, that was not normal, right? The very low prices that occurred for a brief time at the end of the Trump administration were because of the pandemic. People weren't going anywhere, so the price of gas did briefly fall precipitously. And correspondingly, many other goods had price drops as well. That wasn't normal by any sense of the imagination. But the other problem is, even if they were to come down from current high points to something closer to what they were in normal times prior to the advent of Trump and all this chaos, the consumer would be anticipating prices lower tomorrow than they are today. And that is the danger which deflation presents, no matter what the beginning point, no matter what the context. When consumers think the price will be lower tomorrow than it is today, they delay their purchases. They say, well, tomorrow it will be cheaper, I'll buy it then. The next day they say, tomorrow it will be cheaper, I'll buy it then. It's sort of like the humorous sign outside a chain seafood restaurant that said free crab tomorrow. All right. If people had actually believed the humorous sign, they wouldn't go to the restaurant, right? They would wait until tomorrow. Every day they'd come back, see the same sign, wait till tomorrow. This is the problem with deflation, and it sets off what's called the deflationary spiral. It's a deflationary, unaliving spiral, we can call it on TikTok, because it kills an economy, because people delay purchases and make do, and not only is there no economic growth, there is economic stagnation, which of course produces layoffs, which produce more people struggling to get by, which makes less economic activity, and so on and so forth. And this is why you have this spiraling downward of the economy. So one of the missions of the Federal Reserve and many other branches of government or quasi-government organizations is to make sure that, above all, deflation never occurs. So even the prices that we have now cannot be allowed to start to deflate across the board, or we will face serious danger. Yet, this is what 1 out of 5 Americans thinks would be fantastic. They think will happen because either their Lord and Savior is going to be elected, or because the situation will be fixed by somebody. And this is causing them to delay purchases, slowing down the economy. That's why we have this strange anomaly of the Federal Reserve Board cutting interest rates, in my view, because they have noticed that even as inflation, the rate of growth comes down, we don't see more purchasing, we don't see the kind of increased economic activity we would expect to have happen, and neither did their interest rate hike produce the kind of drop in inflation that they had expected. So they've gone ahead and cut the interest rates again, and they don't really anticipate much inflation to result. One of the 2 missions of the Federal Reserve Board is to maintain maximum employment without extremely high inflation. Now, they always want some inflation, 1 to 2% or so, because the money supply must expand corresponding with the population. It's only Trumpers and crazy people on the fringe that imagine themselves to be millionaires sitting on a pile of gold, and they don't want the value of that to be diminished. They want the dollar to be the same value forever. This was the position of serious people most recently in the 1890s. And it is yet another way in which Trumper influence is hurting us. It's not only in our politics, it's not only with the rampant racism and the physical danger that their delusions present to us, but it's also in their daily purchasing decisions and the economic impact that this widespread ignorance, all collected in one echo chamber, is having on our economy. When this crisis is over, we must improve our educational system for the sake of our economy, as well as for the sake of our the politics and American civics and the preservation of our republic.